Welcome everyone to a gameplay overview and a bit of a review of Hegemony III Clash of the Ancients. So I'm as zoomed out as I can be on the grand strategy map for this game, and I just want to show you kind of the art style of the game. So I'm going to move around here. We can see that this is the time frame we're dealing with in Hegemony III. It's a little bit before Rome's rise to power. So I'm guessing it says it in the game, but I already forgot. But it's around 300 BC. So what is this game? It's a grand strategy, real-time war game. And I think the obvious comparison that a lot of people are going to make to it is like a Rome Total War, with the main difference being, definitely not the only difference, but the main difference being that combat will occur on the grand strategy map. So there's no transition between real-time and turn-based. The entire thing is real-time. Now, I would say that for a war game, the emphasis of this game is actually on the economy. So we're definitely going to go into detail about that. In fact, that's probably not a bad place to start. Just to give you an idea of where I am, I'm many hours into this game. I started off as Locris. I prefer to put myself kind of isolated on one side of the map or the other, put my back to a wall so I know which direction I need to go, and then I can only be attacked from one side. So that's my idea, is to start gobbling up my piece of the pie of the Italian peninsula by starting on one edge and then just blobbing out from there. So the good news is I don't have to deal with the threat. If I chose Rome, I would be threatened from all sides at the same time. That's more a statement about my personal gameplay style than a review of this game, but I will say that I will be doing a let's play of this game after this, so if you're interested in some of the beginner mechanics of this game, just keep an eye out for that. Okay, but as for the review, most of this game is spent kind of dealing with this mess, webbing of supply lines. Not that you have to spend a lot of time setting up a supply line, it's rather simple, but this is how the economy works. Let's just take an example. There's a mine. So this is producing 90 gold per week, I guess. Everything's done in weeks, I think. And this is a fishery producing, well, no fish right now because we're in winter. But as soon as winter ticks past, we'll see that the production right up here is going to tick from 0.0 to 1.1 production per worker per week. So if I just unpause, we'll let this run. I'm just going to be, while on pause, not that I really care, but they're going to be attacking me. The AI's gotten into a kind of a silly routine up here. And that's what combat looks like. I mean, they're only sending, as we see, one of their 30 at me. So this is not really an intelligent decision. And I'm pretty far advanced in this game. I'd say, if I had to guess, I'm about 10 hours in. And if you start with a single city, this game really emphasizes slow expansion. Okay, but getting back to the economy. Let's say I have this mine, this fishery. I'm going to try to get to the next season. They by themselves do produce this food, it's true, but that food, unless you actually have a supply line, will just get stuck here. So this game is kind of like about, I almost want to say like network pathing, like nodes and all that. I don't know if you've ever taken programming classes at all or have any familiarity with like trees and stuff like that programmers deal with a lot. I feel like this is like a network flow migration problem where you have a food source which goes here and then moves to here. Now I have units which actually need this food all the way at the front. So these guys are going to be consuming food. That means that this food goes from the original spot it's produced, flows to the camp where that's the only place it can move. And then from there, this is just going to bounce around everywhere and find its way over here eventually. I'd say that if you're familiar with this kind of reference, it's kind of the way supply works in Paradox Interactive's title, Hearts of Iron 3. So it's just going to slowly migrate its way over. And I'm sure there's other examples for that, but that's just the first one that came to mind. Now this is basically the whole economy system. You have to set up the supply routes wherever you think they're necessary. For example, I've elected not, let's choose this. I've elected not to construct a fort here, which acts as like a productionless city, but it does allow you to store some resources, and it acts as a resource flow point. I've chosen not to construct a fort there because I've deemed it sufficient that this supply point move all the way to this fort and to this city instead of having the fort as the intermediary there. Now, I'm not sure if that's a good decision or not. The forts only cost about 20 per week, and although that did matter to me at some point, and it's the reason I'm sure why I don't have one, at this point I'm getting about 500 a week. I have 67,000 coins, whatever the currency is right now, and money is just no concern at all. In fact, if we wait long enough, I should leave the game unpaused because all we have is this redundant battle going on up here. Eventually we'll have like some raid going on, and you'll see that the amount of cost to even just bribe pirates instead of actually fighting them is minuscule. It's pathetic. It's like 150, I think. So I make 3 times that in a week. Okay, so the economy, as I'm saying, it's broken down into 3 resources. You have your money, you have your food, and you have your wood. This is pretty basic. Money is required for everything, and a lot of units and workers and all these things have a money upkeep per week. So we can see if I actually press my cursor here that the breakdown for me is that cities are giving me 1,000, mines and farms are giving me another 1,000. So I'm at a total production of 2,100. And cities are also costing me them because I have upgrades in the cities that take weekly expense to maintain. Whoops, let's go back to that. And units, I'm sure, are the most expensive thing. Yeah, 680 for units because units have and supply lines. If I show this, so this supply line is from the mine to Polisi. You can see on the right that it's 24 kilometers, which they interpret as needing 5 coins to maintain. So the net effect of the mine after the supply line is 85 gold or coins or whatever that I get per week because 5 of it goes into the supply line. And you can't do such a simple calculation for the food here because this is 33 food, up from 0 now that we're in spring. The first winter, just as a quick mention, is going to be difficult. You will lose a lot of food. You'll be at 0 food, but it's okay. It's not as terrible as I thought. You can lose a little bit of population growth, so we can see that if I go to the plus sign, that our population growth is, in this example, 270 out of 680. So that may go down if you lose food, and your units will lose their morale if they're starving. But it's not as terrible as you think, so you'll get through. Okay, so that's supply lines. You create supply lines to either cities or to forts, and that's how all the food and the wood migrates. Now, money is just considered like an instantaneous grab. As soon as the mine gets it anywhere, it just goes right into your treasury. So money is like, maybe you can just consider it as an instant flow. It has infinite speed in its transport along the lines. Okay, now that kind of explains the economy. You just focus on like different mines, well, am I starving? Do I need more food? Okay, well then let me get some fisheries. Do I need money? Okay, then I need to get mines. Do I need money and food? Well, the farms usually give money and food. So livestock farm is like one of my favorites. So I have actually even upgraded in the tech tree, not the military, economy. So I've actually upgraded my animal husbandry to increase my livestock farm production. Because that's my favorite. It gives you money and food, and it does a good job of both. You need wood, so that's food is, your unit supply. Wood is for all the upgrades you're going to need. So anytime your city, you want to build something new, this is going to cost 10 money per week, and it's going to cost 400 wood flat, just a one-time investment to build. And if you choose to destroy a building or whatever, you usually get about half the wood back. Okay, so that's the mechanism for the economy, is you have those 3 things. Food is for your cities to grow, for your for your soldiers to eat. Money just is for everything, and wood is generally just for upgrades. Now, when you first start off and you're only one city, like for me when I was Locris, you don't have a whole lot to do anything. And part of the mechanic of this game is actually you need to go slow. You need to move slowly. There's a lot of people who would say that this game punishes fast expansion. I'm not sure how true that is. It's definitely more true than in other games, so it requires a bit of patience. Hence the reason why I've spent about 10 hours on this game already. Let's get into actual combat. So let me just launch a few units. So I have this general. What does she do? She does something. She decreases the food consumption of the unit she's attached to, she increases their defenses, and she increases their missile range. Well, it sounds like she should be attached to a missile unit, so let's attach her there. Good, the puzzle piece fits, and now she's attached to this unit. Let's move that unit over here. Now, okay, so let's start getting into combat. That's what I want next. Let's move this unit over here. As you can see, there's two map modes. The more zoomed out strategic one is a lot easier to use as far as interface goes. I'll give you a quick example. Like if I want this unit to click on this bridgehead, it's really easy, it's intuitive. Like I can grab this unit and click that. Now let me try to do the same thing zoomed in. That wasn't so bad, but you can see it's a little cumbersome. The selection box or hitbox of this flag it's not where it should be. Like this green line right here is just right there. It should be there. Anyways, I'm being a little particular, but actually this is because this example isn't as bad as it can be. So it can be a lot worse. Let's charge some people forward. We'll siege this city and take it. And over here, we'll launch our forces over into a bigger attack so we can actually kind of get an idea of what gameplay looks like, the military aspect of it. So I think that's all I want to talk about with economy. I would say that maybe 2/3, 1/3, the focus is on the economy and only 1/3 on actually going to war. Because just like most games, when you have a strong economy, the war is a lot easier. You basically win it. You win it without really trying as much. So let's just go ahead and siege this town. We're now capturing it. And over here, let's send these forces forward. If I select all of them, they'll become a group. But I've had a lot of problems with that. Which is another thing I probably should mention, that the game did get released in a pretty buggy state. I'm going to pause real fast. Oh, did we just capture that city? Okay, so now it's ours. That was not hard because I'm a little bit overpowered in this game. I've done a lot of work. There's the mechanic slaves, which I should mention in a second, but first let me finish talking about bugs. When the game was first released, this city, Polisi, was actually, it didn't have a name by it, and I just for some reason like the Locris. I keep choosing them. But if I do choose them, obviously one of the first cities you want to take, especially if you want to start forming a one front instead of two fronts, is Polisi and then Region and Tavriana, or Tariana. But Polisi was bugged. So when you capture it, it would go into this infinite loop with an advisor giving you advice, and you couldn't close it. If you saved and reloaded, it would still pop up, and it was kind of game breaking. So when the game was initially released, there was quite a few bugs. Now, Longbow Games is not a big company. You wouldn't expect them to have an amazingly polished game, because they're just a bunch of a small hardworking group. So they had to release at some point. There's probably pressure from the publisher or something, I don't know, to get the game out by a specific time, and they couldn't get all the little bugs ironed out. This one to me was just pretty obvious, but maybe it's just because they have so many, like the scope. You can see that this is taking me about 10 hours to do. There is a bit of a snowball effect. As we can see, things are getting easier for me, but can you imagine how long it would take to capture this whole thing? Oh my gosh, a long time. So there's a lot of cities. So maybe it's understandable that one could be overlooked, but the game was originally just broken. And 2 patches later, it's 3.0.2 everything is wonderful now. So just like Everlast has told me in the past, everything is wonderful now. So let's get into combat. The game was a little buggy, but those things are working out. And you can see the one thing I've heard from other people, especially if you guys know, what's his name? Commissar Bro. He kind of turned me onto this game first. That and Das24680. Those are 2 really good YouTubers. They kind of turned me onto this game, and Commissar has always been very supportive of the Longbow Games. So he says that they really support their titles for a long time. I have no experience. This is my first Longbow Games title I picked up, but I would take his word on it. So we can see this is how combat is. I'm going to go ahead and flank this unit. Not that I would need to, because they have Spearmen, which is the weakest unit, and I have Hoplites, which is better. And I'm going to do that flanking attack, but this will at least show you how... First of all, I need to make sure this city isn't we need to make sure this city is connected by a supply line to my whole network. Okay, good. And I probably should build a bridge here. So I need to connect this, and let's connect this, and let's build a bridge. So although this is currently can be crossed by my units, supply can't flow through until you actually build a bridge there. Okay, so we have this unit which is retreating. This is the main mechanic of the economy. So how do you succeed? How to succeed in Hegemony 3? The main answer, one word, is slaves. So I'm going to click on these things and we're going to see that this is a slave. Now I think somewhere, maybe over here, I actually have a worker. Ah yes, so this is what a worker looks like. You'll notice that I don't have many of them, and I'm also doing really well in this game. And yes, there is not just a correlation, but this is, okay, maybe it's not causation, maybe it is just highly correlated. If you want to survive in this game, you just have to get a lot of slaves. You get slaves from killing enemy units or capturing enemy resource points, as I'll show you here. When you capture the enemy resource point, like these camps or whatever, like this farm, I'm going to capture half of these as slaves. What's the difference between workers and slaves? Well, as you might guess, slaves don't cost any money. So workers have an upkeep of 10, which still makes them usually worth it for anything. Because a simple example is a mine gives 90 or 60. I think it gives 60 without this upgrade that I have. So workers, even though they cost 10, are always worth it to build still. However, slaves are just better because they're free. They're just totally free. So there's no disadvantage. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to build them. And I have even built slave markets, so you can see that along with my choice of livestock farms, I've also gotten here slave market. So slave market just allows you to buy more slaves, and basically what I'm saying is slaves are good. Not in real life, but in this game. So you just build slaves, you get tons, and then you can, all these things are just producing stuff for free. Now, like I said, you have to take into account that there's a supply line you have to pay for, but having, I wonder how many slaves I have. I think about 1 unit of slaves, a full unit being 20 per resource thing, but I even have 2 on some of them, so you can see a stack of 2 here, a stack of 2 here, which is 40. Now that means that probably all told I have, how many would you guess, like 10, 20, 30? So 30, let's just say I have like 35 or 40 slave units. That's 400 money per week that I would have been spending on workers that I'm now not, that I get for free because they're all slaves. And this just makes the biggest difference. I mean, 400 per week is really nothing to scoff at. And the difference is even more important when you're a smaller, like when I only had 4 cities, 200 money probably meant more for me because I think there's a bit of an exponential growth factor, you know. Money's just not even a concern anymore. I wouldn't care if I was minus 500 for weeks and weeks and weeks, but it doesn't seem like there's any foreseeable end to my wonderful economy. So we already killed this unit. That wasn't too, I didn't really get to show you the military that much, but I would say the economy is most of this game, so it's fair. It's fair to talk about it. Let's see, what else? Do I want to go into anything else? I guess the only last thing to do is to show another military battle. Let's start with something a little more. This is the one with the lady? Yeah, okay. Stop capturing that. Oh, actually you're just going to destroy it, so we'll do that real fast. Demolish, and now go ahead and let's see what an attack looks like. Now, they're coming at me, so I'm going to go ahead and wait because I have a ranged unit. Okay. Actually, I want to make you flee. So I am attacking, but after a volley, I need to retreat. So we got our slaves out. This is what happens when you capture. Let's go ahead and get this next one to volley. Oh, no, please continue backing up. If they get locked into combat, that means that essentially the melee unit has caught them, and that's not what we want. So let's just keep backing up, and let's get our actual melee units out to support us. So go ahead and take refuge in the city or something. Actually, they're broken. It looks like they're turning back. So I'm gonna turn and actually fight them. No, fight them. This is, it's so simple. It's basically rock, paper, scissors. They usually have either melee or ranged. Every now and then, very rarely, they'll actually have cavalry. But you can see the choke points, like the map. It looks wide, but the hills you see here is all impassable, as denoted by the X. So the choke points mean that usually you can only get about 2 units side by side at a time. So it's pretty easy to avoid being flanked, which means that unfortunately cavalry are not nearly as effective as they otherwise could be. And I don't know how much of this is maybe when you go more towards the center, maybe in this area the paths are wider, but I don't have any experience over there, so I'm not sure. I know in the very far north you do get some pretty large areas up by the Gauls, because I have seen Das24680's playthrough, and they had slightly larger areas over there. Okay, well now we're getting bombarded, so this is good. We can actually do a little combat here. Let's attack that guy. Now the grouping system for this game is not working correctly, I think. It's working very poorly if it's working at all. Okay, here's a good thing. One mechanic for recovering slaves is, as we saw by capturing resource points. I have such a hard time saying that. The other mechanic is by capturing enemy units. So defeated units become capturable, so you can enslave. And as I'm mentioning again, the key to success in this game is just capturing a ton of slaves. I even suggest that you slave farm by letting enemy units come towards you and then capturing them. Don't take their city, just keep capturing the slaves. Which means that unfortunately you have to kind of guard your ranged units, because they'll typically launch a volley, and while the volley's in the air, the enemy unit will surrender and become like capturable. But by the time you actually try to capture it, the rest of the volley lands and the unit is completely wiped out. Well, that being said, I guess that's I don't have a big battle I could show you, unfortunately. And these guys are all moving well beyond their supply lines. You can see that they have a supply stockpile of 50, the units do. But these are certainly well beyond supply range, which is denoted by the yellow outline we see around the city. That's how far that they can supply units. So it's all into this thing. Okay, and here's your typical pop-up. Our enemy unit is leading something towards us. But in this case, the enemy unit is just a bunch of workers, which we'll just easily capture, and they'll become more slaves. And that's good for us. So there it is. They became capturable the moment we touched them with combat, because they have no combat value, and now we're capturing them. And that's it. That's how you win the game, is slaves. Slaves are the best, but only in this game. So I think that concludes this overview of Hegemony III. I'm going to go ahead and continue, or actually start a new Let's Play series on this. And I'll try to walk through all the things I'm talking about very briefly here to give you a better idea of the gameplay mechanic, to show you exactly what I mean when I'm talking about using slaves or starting slow. So if you're interested in learning a little more about the game, you can keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, if you're just interested in learning what this game is about, I hope this was informative. And until my next video, I'll see you guys later.